Hello lovelies, I am filming a VR today to Ikale Sunflower, the lovely bee, for her hashtag circular decks. I've absolutely loved watching everybody's VRs to this. So the first question is, what draws you to circular decks? Now this was my first ever circular deck. This is The Star That Never Walks Around by Stella Bennett. This was really reasonable. It was under £10, but I do think it might be out of print at the minute. It's a Native American tarot package, and I didn't use this for a while because I don't know, it just didn't feel like it was something that culturally I had any experience of, and I didn't know whether I could relate. So I actually rehomed this once, but then it came back to me, and I am so glad it did, because on that second coming back to me, I began to work with it and I just immediately fell in love with it. I think the characters in this deck are just fantastic, and yeah, it's the characters, it's the naive drawings and the earthiness of this deck that I absolutely adore. Also, one of the first cards I pulled was this one, and this was almost immediately after I'd had a energy healing session where the energy healer had gone into the underworld to see if there were any contracts in the underworld, and she came back with the gift of a white horse. It was only 24 hours afterwards, I'd been disappointed for 24 hours that she hadn't met the Morrigan in the underworld, and then I realised the white horse, of course it's Maka. So it was the Morrigan, and the white horse was a gift with a specific meaning. And then I came to this deck and pulled this card with the white horse on. I then, on a trip to the charity shop with Tilly to spend some pocket money, found this for £1, and yeah, so this has been sitting out on my altar next to my white horse statue. So it just felt like it was destined to be, and I started working with this deck. So this is my first deck, but what draws me to circular decks? Well, I didn't think I was particularly drawn to circular decks, to be honest. I've never really sought them out, but having worked with this one more, I began to realise I love the quirkiness of them. I think it's the same reason why I love decks like the Dreams of Gaia, things that step outside of the system a little bit. I just like something a little bit different. But also, what challenges do you find with circular decks, which is question number 2. It's the same thing. They're different, they're harder to shuffle, they're harder to hold. Also, I agree with Meg. Meg said when you lay out circular decks, it's hard to kind of work out where you're laying them out and how to make them look good together. It's not quite as easy to lay it out as rectangular cards that just sit nicely next to each other. So there is that with circular decks. Also, I'm in a phase at the moment where I'm having a slight crisis about reversals. I've always read with reversals and left reversals in play, but now as my tarot practice develops, I'm realising how much it jars me having a card upside down. Part of my love of tarot is a love of the imagery, and I want to see the picture. I don't want it upside down. So I've started turning cards the right way up and just trying to remember in a reading which ones were reversed. Sometimes I'm abandoning the reversal altogether and just going with the reading as a whole. And and I'm feeling guilty. Am I doing the right thing? Is this the wrong thing? Is it changing the overall meaning of a reading? Should I be sticking to reversals? So I'm still working through that myself. But of course you throw into the mix a circular deck and you've got lots and lots of different ways that this card could land. It can land in a full 360-degree variation of upright or reverse. So it adds a whole new dilemma into a dilemma that I'm already living in, which I still have no answers for. Look, I've got this card out because you can see, look how brilliant some of these character drawings are. I just love them. This deck makes me smile. I love how naive it is. It's like a really simple pencil drawing, and I don't think pencil is something that you see very often on cards, so I love it for that. So those are the challenges that I find that circular decks present, and the fact that it's, you know, slightly more unusual to lay out, but it's also the reason why I love them as well. So it's the same reason that it's odd, it presents challenges. These are all the reasons I also love circular decks as well. So that is my very first circle deck, the Star That Never Walks Around. So how many circle decks do I actually have? Well, I've actually got 4 circle decks at the minute. Only 2 have been worked with so far. So I've worked with the Star That Never Walks Around and I love it. And then I've also been working with this one. This is the Crystal Medicine Oracle by Rachel Sharman. Artwork is by Len Hibble. And again, just like with this deck also has had a card out on my altar, this time my Morrigan altar upstairs. Now it's really strange because for a while now on my Kanban board I've had the goal out to dance daily, a way of moving my body that's more fun, and to offer it up as ritual, and it stayed there for literally months and months and months, and at the end of every month I realised I've not done it. So I thought, well, you really need to focus. You either want to dance daily or you don't. And at the start of this month I began working with this deck on my Morrigan altar, and this was the first card that I pulled whilst working with this deck on my Morrigan altar. So this has been out all month. It says to dance and I have been bringing it into my spiritual practice for the month. I have been choosing a random Spotify dance track or just a piece of music and dancing daily. So these are the backs on these Crystal Medicine Oracle cards. I love this deck. Not only do you get the medicine message of the card, but you also get a corresponding crystal, and you get some sort of ceremony to work with in the guidebook. A lot of them lead to meditations, some of them lead to things like making rattles and dancing and then using that to form the beginning of a meditation. You will get like writing ceremonies where you get led into writing prayers, and the 3 things combined, the actual message, the medicine message of the card and the ceremony and the crystal as well combined, it just gives you so much to work with. Like I say, I've been working with this all month and don't feel any pull yet to change the card. I think that's going to be up for a whole month, and I think it's just a lovely way of working with a deck. So say for card number 13, which is going within, in the guidebook you will see for card 13 you have an oracle message to you. The medicine for your inner world how to work with the crystals, and then also look, here's the ceremony. The ceremony involves a journeying meditation out in nature, so it's just really lovely for visualizations, meditations, and for really finding different ways of enhancing your spiritual practice. So I've loved that one. Right, my most recent circular deck purchase was at the very end of last year, before my no buy kicked in, and it was this one. I went down to my local metaphysical shop with Tilly to choose some crystals for friends, and in the back room on a table they had a deck sale, and the decks were super cheap. I got a Celtic Oracle, and I got this one as well for, I think I paid £10 for this. So this is the Circle of Life Tarot. It's by Maria Di Stefano. I don't think I said that right. There's her name, look. I'd seen this on Renee's channel at Medell Art Mystic, and I'd loved it. But it was on my wish list, but I hadn't expected it to come into my collection so quickly. But seeing it at that sort of price, it just seemed like it was meant to be. And you can see it is still in order. I literally haven't worked with it yet, but I love it. Look at these images, isn't this great? So all I've done is, I think I've flicked through it once and it's gone on the waiting to be worked with list. So it's very otherworldly, it's very sort of, it's got a lot of fae energy running through it, I think. And it's wonderful. I love the backs on there. So the backs are very mandala, and I have to say I do love mandalas. I love drawing them. Drawing mandalas is also very much a part of my spiritual practice. I will try and insert in here some images, some photos, if I can find some time-lapse videos. I'll put those in here of some of my mandalas that I drew with ink to do with developing emotional literacy. I added on top of them paper cutting as well, because paper cutting as well is very much linked to feeling like I'd become a void through abusive relationships. I was defined by the void, so to draw with a knife that cuts, and to draw with the void, and to draw mandalas about going on a journey of healing just seemed very apt for me. So you can see that mandalas have always been a big part of my spiritual practice as well. So I've been very pulled to some of the mandala decks that I've also seen during this hashtag. Also, some of my most precious, most magical stones are stones that I've collected because they've got circles on. These are what I look for when I'm on the beach, stones with circles. I just find the circle just such a magical shape. You can see I've got a circle tattoo on my wrist. This is to remind me that magic always rolls around. So when it gets tough, which it does as a special needs mama, to hold on to hope, because the magic rolls around. And it also is a way of showing my kids how much I love them. I always say round and round and round with no end. So the circle for me is magical. It's about hope, it's about magic, it's about loving people like truly and deeply. It's about healing, it's about journeys of healing. So I'm surprised I have so few circular decks in my collection, and it definitely is something that I'd like to address next year as I come out of my no-buy year. I absolutely love the Mother Piece. Oh my gosh, I love that deck. I love the Archetypes deck as well. I think that is stunning by Kim Kranz. So those two are right up there on my wish list. There's mandala healing decks I've seen that are right up there on my wish list too. So I do know that that there will be more circular decks coming into my collection. So this is the Circle of Life Tarot with these beautiful backs, which is yet to be worked with, which was the last deck I bought, but it wasn't the last circular deck that has come into my collection, because I was actually gifted very kindly by a very dear friend this deck. This is the Mandala Healing Oracle. So again, those words that I've just talked about, like mandalas and healing and journeys and loving people, the journey to your heart. This is by Denise Jarvie, artwork by Lindy Longhurst, and this is gorgeous. There's 44 cards in this deck. It's a Blue Angel publication, and again, it's one that I haven't worked with yet, but oh boy, it's so wonderful. So your guidebook comes with the message of the card, healing reflection, and then journal prompts as well. So it's very much a deck about healing, and the artwork is just so wonderful. So these are the backs, and you're kind of taken on a meditation with these cards. You're asked to focus on the center of the card and then move out. You've also got color meanings in here. The colors really hold meaning as well, which is wonderful. So you're taken on a journey through the card from the center to focus, almost like a visualization or a meditation, out through the different layers of the card to kind of tap into your own journey of healing. Then you're given journey prompts with what you've discovered. So it's a very interactive deck where it does require, the card pull takes you onto an actual healing path, a healing journey that the card evokes to kind of understand your healing path and to find a way out and through. And I just think the artwork is so wonderful. Look at it. And the keywords I love as well. I love the fact that you are pushed to action with this deck, and that then you're supported into journaling about this. This was the first card that I pulled, and I just thought, oh no, that's a slap in the face. Look, happy families. But when I read the healing reflection that you sort of explore through meditation, it talks about your internal family, so your inner mom and your inner father. So the inner family, that is different aspects of you. So your inner siblings, not abusive siblings or abusive mothers in real life. It says it's time to be the mother, father, brother or sister to your inner child, and you've got the inner child sat below the image. And I went from feeling horrified that I'd pulled a card that basically reminded me of everything I didn't have, to a card that allowed me to recreate that support within me for a lost inner child. It leads you to things that make you feel joyous and reclaiming your inner child, and that was just from the one card. Like I say, I haven't really used this deck, but I couldn't resist once I saw the artwork of just sitting with it and playing with a couple of the cards to just see how it worked. Isn't it just delightful? I think the artwork's wonderful, keywords are wonderful, the whole concept of the deck is wonderful. And a call to action is something that has been very strongly given to me in my practice time and time again at the point I'm at now, including being demanded that I dance daily. It isn't a static in my head place anymore. There is a real call to action all the time, which I feel this deck just keys into so brilliantly. Isn't it lovely? I just think it's beautiful. So these are my 4 decks that I have that are circular, and I just love them all. So like I say, working with these decks this month and the calls to action from them, it really has put circular decks right up there on the wish list, and just seeing everybody's brilliant responses to be. I will link videos down below to make it easy for you to go and find the original video and the playlist. But yeah, these are my circular decks. I have gone from thinking circular decks are not really for me to thinking that, yeah, they really, really are. With all their challenges, they're just wonderful. So thank you, B, for this lovely tag. Thank you everybody else that's also done a VR, because I've loved them. And thanks you guys for watching. I will see you next time. Bye.